Hello everybody and welcome to another TFN News Roundup video. My name is David and I do apologise, there wasn't an episode last week. I was feeling a little bit under the weather to be honest it was kind of a blessing in disguise because had I done an episode last week, as soon as I put it out, it would have immediately been outdated because if you'd been paying attention to Transformers news last week, we were getting inundated by store listings for new figures that were coming out for what I'm assuming is going to be the vast majority of 2024. So if I'd put a video out, it would have been me just going, oh, I like that toy. No, I'm not bothered about that toy. Oh, that's a bit of an interesting choice. Not particularly interesting. I'm sure you would have looked at the list yourself, made your own minds up. But instead, today, I want to talk about one news story in particular, and it's this one. Yesterday, we had this unveiled to us. This is the long-rumoured 5-pack that has been in development, I guess, for a while. Like, I remember hearing about this last year. A 5-pack including Jazz, Sunstreaker, Wheeljack, Trailbreaker, and Hound. Now, you will obviously be aware of the fact that 4 of these 5 figures have previously been released. And I've seen some mixed views online in regards to this, but I want to give you my take on it. And hopefully that might help you make a decision, or you might think I'm completely wrong. Regardless, let me know your opinions down below. So this 5-pack, as I say, 4 out of the 5 figures are being re-released with brand new colour schemes to make them more in line with their cartoon counterpart. We'll come back to that later because I think it might be important as to why they're doing this. However, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about Hound. A lot of people are upset because they seem to think that this is the only way to get hold of Hound. And this box set is retailing for over £100 here in the UK. I think In Demand have got it at its cheapest price. I could be wrong about that. I've pre-ordered it from In Demand. I don't know if that's a cheap sponsor. Nick, do you owe me money? Who knows? We'll find out. But let's just talk a moment about this particular set and about Hound. I think people are rightly concerned over the fact that this toy, which has previously been released, not as Hound, but as a different character, but we have had this mold, I think people are right to be upset if this figure does not get a standalone re-release. However, history has shown that Hasbro have not re-released key characters single-cardedly when they've previously released them in box sets. So if you'll cast your mind back a couple of years ago, we had a box set that included Fangry, which was clearly the standout toy of the line, a toy which was a brand new mold, but you could not get Fangry anywhere else. He was never re-released. Last year, I believe it was, beginning of last year, we had the B box set, which had Goldbug in. Again, a figure which has never again been re-released outside of that box set. So it stands to reason, if history has taught us anything, that Hound is not going to be released single-cardedly. And that is disappointing, because one, if you're a long-time collector, you most likely have 4 out of these 5 boxes. 4 out of these 5 bots, not boxes. You might keep the boxes, who knows? But Hound is also a legacy character, you know, more so than Fangry, more so than Goldbug. Hound is a key member of the original Generation 1 ARC crew. He's a fan favourite character, you know, was in Transformers the movie, very briefly, but was in there. And I think it would be in bad service to the fans if they were to keep him exclusive to this set. That's just my personal opinion. I would like to think Hasbro would re-release him later on down the line, but I'll be perfectly honest with you, their track record seems to indicate otherwise. And I would hate to think you'll be alright, but who knows? I mean, the other thing is people complaining about the price. The price is, I think, a reasonable one. Right now in the UK, one of these deluxe figures is going to cost you around £25. So what you're looking at here is £125 worth of figures with, a discount, because I think I paid something like 114, so you're saving £10. It's not a massive saving. I would have liked this set to have come in under £100, but it is what it is. The other thing with these box sets, however, is that, especially with the last one, with the Goldbug set, that was everywhere eventually, and you could get it for an absolute steal. I, like the mug that I am, because I wanted Goldbug desperately, bought it at full price. I was seeing it go as low as £25 at one point here in the UK. However, I don't think you can ignore the fact that we were still coming out of that sort of COVID period, and from everything that I've heard about toy manufacturing, they are scaling everything way back in terms of the quantities that they're producing, purely because people aren't collecting as much, whether that be because of the price, whether that be because they're phased out of collecting. I have no earthly idea as to why that's happening, but it would not surprise me if this set, once it's out, holds its value and you don't see it on clearance. Now, I could be wrong about that. I'd like to be, for all of those people that aren't prepared or don't have the ability to spend £100 plus just to get hold of a Hound. However, taking myself out of the equation and removing the fact that I own 4 out of these 5 figures, I think Hasbro deserves some credit for actually doing this box set, and I'll tell you for why. If you're new to collecting, if you're new to the fandom, this box set, comprising 5 of the original ARC crew, is a really, really good set. I think it's great value for money. You're getting some really, really good characters, really, really A-list characters, ones that people will like and have an affinity for. And so if you're new to this is excellent news for you. People coming into the fandom shouldn't have to pay aftermarket scalper prices for toys just because they're new to it. Now look, I know that's the way of the world, and I know that Hasbro can't possibly continuously keep toys on shelves indefinitely, because there's no profit to be made in that. At the end of the day, Hasbro, much like any business, needs to make a profit. But it's good that a new fan coming in who might not have access to these, and these are all great figures. There's not a bad, I've not actually handled the Hound personally myself, but I don't think there's a bad figure in this set. Also as well, and this is purely speculation on my part, I think this set might be indicative of what we can expect moving forward in 2024. And this goes back to the toy leaks that came out last week. As you'll note here, we have got the 5 Autobots, but specifically they're being done in colour schemes to match the cartoons. Okay, that's cool. It's a new paint job, which is great. Now, personally, there's a couple of these that I'm not necessarily too bothered about. I like Sunstreaker because if you remember that original Sunstreaker, it had sort of a mismatched yellow. By the looks of it, that's been fixed on this one. And I really like Trailbreaker because I do like that colour scheme. But I'm not really too bothered about Jazz or Wheeljack. We'll wait and see. I'll wait till I get them in hand before I decide whether or not they're going to replace the original Jazz and Wheeljack on my shelf. However, last week we got the announcement. I say announcement. We got the leak that we are getting a leader class Megatron and Galvatron towards the back end of the year in Studio Series 86, Megatron and Galvatron. And it has been long rumoured and believed that the Commander class for 2024 is going to be Optimus Prime, and that makes perfect sense. You would not, if there was one commander class you're going to do in 2024, it's going to be Optimus Prime. Here's the thing though, and this is where I think Hasbro is playing a blinder here. I wonder whether or not this Megatron, Galvatron, and Optimus Prime are going to be so Generation 1, they're going to lean so heavily into the Generation 1 cartoon that this box set is going to sort of be indicative of what they're going to be doing. They're going to be doing these toys with more accurate cartoon color schemes, because those toys that are going to come out at the end of the year are going to be so cartoon accurate, quote unquote, that these 5 will fit really nicely with that. Now look, I think these would fit really nicely with the Kingdom Optimus anyway, and the rest of the lines that we've had over the last couple of years. But it would not surprise me if that is one of the things that they're thinking about. If you, going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but if you were a fan of Masters of the Universe, now personally, I'm not a massive fan. I don't collect Masters of the Universe, but I do pay attention to what they did many years ago when the Classics line, Masters of the Universe Classics line, was out. Once they had pretty much gotten through all of their main characters, they sort of went back and they did a Funimation being the animation studio that did the original He-Man cartoon. They sort of went back to a lot of the older figures and re-released them as Funimation-inspired versions of them. Relatively the same toy, but just with different color schemes. And I think that's pretty much what Hasbro is doing right now. Re-releasing toys which are still great, still modern, and possibly, you know, the best versions of these toys you're ever likely to get. But they're just going to do them in, let's say, a Sunbow style. And I think that's what we're going to get with Commander Class Optimus Prime. I think that's what we're going to get with Leader Megatron and Leader Galvatron. Definitely given the fact that they're in the Studio Series line. I don't think there's any question we will see that. And then these 5 toys will go nicely alongside those. But that's just my thoughts and speculation. I've got no way of backing that up other than the fact that it seems to make sense in my head. So what do you think? Are you looking forward to this set? Do you own any of these figures? In which case, are you definitely getting this set? If you do own these figures, are you dropping £100 on a deluxe for Hound? That is the question for you. And if you turn around and say, no, there's no way I'm not, here's a question for you. Would you have dropped £100 on a deluxe figure if it had been a BotCon exclusive? I'm not trying to catch anybody out here, but I know for a fact that I have dropped a lot of money on a figure that's just as basic, purely because I have some sentimental attachment to the character. I'm just curious, what do you make of it? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so very much for joining me. My name has been David. I'm from TFNation. If you don't know, TFNation is a convention that is held multiple times a year in the UK. We've got 2 shows lined up. We've got one coming up in Manchester in March next month. That is completely sold out. But we have our big show, our yearly massive annual event coming up in August. If you would like to be part of that and come along and celebrate the 40th anniversary of Transformers with us, all of our details are in the social bar down below. I hope you all have a wonderful time. Take care of yourselves, you beautiful, beautiful people, and I will see you next time.